Hey guys, how's it going? Ghostly Rich here today, and today we're going to be swapping out these speakers on this FJ. So, the best way to do so is we're going to pop off the door skin. As you can see here, you would think, oh, maybe it's a round speaker. It definitely is not. You can either use a 5x7 or a 6x9. The 5x7, you would need an adapter probably. So what you need is just a small little screwdriver. Press this in. After you do that, go ahead and pull this boy out. After you do that, there's going to be another flip door right here. If we're looking, you just get your little flat blade in here and pry this buddy up, and there'll be a screw hole in here, and there'll be one more right here in the door handle. So go ahead, pop this out. Look, another Phillips, and quickly go around our door skin here. I think that is our main ones. So pull out this Phillips and pull out a Phillips in there. Right here, if you want, get your fingernails or a panel popping tool, just flip it up. And then from there, press this tabbed connector. You press the tab in like so, and then pull out the connector. Now that we've made sure we got this screw out, that screw out, another cool thing to note, that one is silver, this one is black. Anyways, driver side and passenger side, only difference is driver side has a gray clip, passenger side has two white clips, and they both squeeze out the exact same, and they're both shaped like a brick. Anyways, come over here. Just pull right here. This is the hardest part. Those clips, if you've never removed them, they're gonna be nice and in there strong. Once we've gone ahead and we've done that, lift it out. You're gonna see these two right here. Well, this one already slipped out. Anyways, this was clipped in here. You just pop it forward and then wind it around until the opening, and you slip it out. Let's show you right here. See if I can get it again. See how I pop that out? And then you slide it up to the groove, and this slides right out of the way. Go put your door panel somewhere safe, and remember, green was on the bottom. Next thing to do, squeeze the side of the connector and come out. This one is a side squeeze. Once you do that, leave this off to the side, grab a 10mm and pull out these 4 bolts. Squeeze your hands in here and separate it. Just like that. Wow, that's light. Look at that little baby magnet. This thing weighs less than 300 grams, not even a pound. The new ones are gonna be way better. Look at all that room we have in there. I pulled the window all the way down. You always do this, so that way you can see where the glass is. And the way this was designed, you can see the actuator stops right here with the window all the way down. So we don't have to worry about a window being in the way. We have lots of clearance in this door. Metra part number 828146. Get them. Why? They have a speaker wire pass through, and it bolts up right here. And if you're worried about any pressure loss or anything for some reason, go ahead and add a bead of silicone on there, and it'll help seal it right up. You won't get any rattle that way, and your screws will hold that in from factory. So I never buy these adapters, but if you want to, you can get the speaker adapter that makes it so you can just slide a pigtail onto the existing connector rather than solder. And that way you can just solder them just onto the speaker, and it makes the process super simple. Something to make sure that you do though is put the speaker inside the adapter ring before you do that, because if you go ahead and solder onto the speaker, you're not going to be able to fit that through that little hole on the top of this bracket right here. So make sure you put the pigtail through here so it's hanging out there, and then you could even mount your speaker onto here and then solder it with the wires going through here, so you can just screw it on and plug it in. Makes it pretty simple. Doesn't make a difference to me, and that's why I'm not getting these adapters. Now, if you're like me and maybe you didn't get the adapters and you're like, what do I do now? You can cut and solder. The positive wire is the red blue one right here. How you can tell is it's the one closest to the connector's tab. So that's how you know which one's positive. The one that's near the connector's tab right here. There we go. There's our red blue wire, which is the closest to that tab. Once again, we've soldered it, heat shrinked it, put our negative on there, comes down to here. Big one, which is our positive. So big one is going to our positive blue red, and then our negative is going to our blue wire right here, comes through. If you are worried about anything, you could tape or put some liquid heat shrink or whatever you want on these. I don't bother. Some people, the other thing they'll do is they'll wipe them down with Vaseline, just like you would a battery terminal, so that way it doesn't corrode. Again, I'll leave it up to you. I'm not too worried about them. By the time those corrode out and rot out, we'll be needing new speakers always. So, other than that, let's go ahead and strap this in with 4 screws. They should usually come in with your new speakers. I ended up going with a little bit meatier screws. I wanted something that had a little bit more teeth on it, just because I put in the other screws and they just did not grip at all. It would just spin. These actually tightened in, and this vehicle is going off-road. So 100% want to make sure that these are not going to back out. Now that we've got this, let's get our door panel and we're going to line it up. Before you put your door panel on, you need a Christmas tree popper like this. The reason why is we're going to put this in here, and we need to remove, if we can, this from the door. Just like that. And the reason why is some of these usually get stuck. It's just the age of them, and if they break, you can always take one of these to the auto parts store and you can go and buy some more. And they look just like that. Just in case you want to order them in advance. Now that we've got 2 of those that got stuck, we're gonna go slide these back in the door panel, and then we can sink it on. You might not need to see this, but maybe you do. Just goes like this. They just click in just like that. No matter what I do, this is going to be a dark shot. So you see the green one? We're in the bottom, not the top one. See how you sink the wire in the ball, bring it over, and then it clips back in just like that. Next is to do the exact same here. Bring it down, around, and sink it back in. So now we can just lift this up here, and it should just hook on to the door, just like that. Make sure before you sink anything in, you can reach this. From here, start pressing your clips back in. Go around, just give it a nice press. From there, you can click your switch back in. It has a little hook on it. Slide the hook in and then press down. Put in silver screw, black screw, and sink these up. All you do is press them closed. Press these back in, like I said. Once those are pressed back in, take this, press the nub so it's kind of just poking out the top. You should see now that that little nub right there is sticking out, just like yay. And come over here, slide that in, and make it flat. That won't go anywhere. Congratulations, you put the door panel on. Do it to both driver's and passenger side, and then we'll attack our tweeters. Best thing to do is use your fingernail once again, pop that in, and then you just turn this. Go over here, turn this, and then go back here. And we're gonna just pop this up. Just wanna see how this one comes out. Probably another 2 clips that have never been removed before. There. And same thing with the last side. See if I can get it. There. Flip this up, move it out of the way. Grab your 10 mil and remove. We'll leave this bracket in here. Just take out the tweeter right here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna actually gut this tweeter, and we're gonna use this factory bracket to mount our new tweeter. It's gonna be really hard for you to see. I can't get any angle on this. But there are 2 side tabs on a bracket right here. Can you see that? Actually, let's see if I can bend this up a little bit and show you. See this little white clip right here? What we want to do is squeeze the 2 centers, and it'll actually push down. And if you squeeze and push down, let's see, come on. Just like that. Either way, what you want to do is squeeze and push down like that. See how that came out? It's because these 2 little barbs. Next thing to do, compress, and just like you did with your door speakers, pull this away. Never works on camera. So anyways, press, pull this out of the way, and then this is the part we're going to be modifying. I would just start off by doing this. And then you can, like I said, just go into here and pull out the insides of this speaker, this Very easy to pull out paper speaker. Like I said, after you've separated it from the edges, just like this, now you can see right through. So once you cut through this with tin snips, it'll be separated from the basket. So if you take a look here, see how it's holding the rim of the tweeter? That's exactly what you want. So you bend them at a certain angle, and then what you do is certain tweeters, depending on the brand that you're using, it'll have a screw-on ring. This one has a pinch ring. So it's just like got teeth on it, and I slide it on over top. So you pinch those teeth in between so they won't move. And that tweeter is so light, it's not gonna go anywhere anyway. But that way, we've now modified the tweeter mounts. So let's go over it. Remember how we trimmed it? We slid this down. This has the sandwich ring rather than the turn-in, so that's on there. Now for the wiring. Depending on which one you use, this one has a -3 wire, which means -3 decibels, takes the sharpness a bit out of the tweeter. Up to you if you want to. This client of mine wants to not use the at 0. He wants it -3, a little less sharp. So that's what I did. I wired it in so it's a little less sharp. Not all tweeters are like that. Some of them might have a little flick switch or whichever way, or other ones, there is nothing. You just have a little capacitor which you solder on. This one just has a little mini tweeter crossover. So if you just have a little capacitor there, then all you would do is solder it in line. And if it is directional, make sure that you follow the side that says in and out. So as you can see, I've soldered in. We've now got it soldered, heat shrinked, and red goes to red and black goes to black. It's as simple as that. I put double-sided sticky tape on here because what I'm going to do is stick this inside the pocket. Might even put a couple more strands on here. And once it's stuck in there, bolt the tweeter on top. Just go ahead, clip that back on, sink this back down here, and remember how we popped that out? Go ahead and pop it back in. And then after you do that, peel off your double-sided sticky tape off to the side and stick it away or towards the edge of it, so that way it's not going to interfere with your tweeter when you put it in. So just put it off to the side on either side. Stuck it right here. Going to move this on and over to the side. That way we know it's not going to get pinched. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and slide that tweeter in and bolt the screws back in. Looks beautiful in there. Let's go ahead, take this and seal it up. Down here, there is 2 Phillips, one on each side. Take the one out of right here and take the one out of right there. Once you've removed those screws, go ahead, get your nail underneath, and you should be able to just pop these forward just like that. This side too. Literally just pops out. All right, let's see if we can get some light on the situation. Look at that. Phillips screw right there and Phillips screw right there. Make sure you pop out the 2 Phillips so we can pop off this front panel. You've taken out that Phillips screw and that Phillips screw. Grab right here and pop this forward. From here, you have a bunch of tabs to release. Right there. Let's see. If I actually get rid of that, that's better. Perfect. Compress the tab and pull out. Compress this tab and pull out. And then do the same down here. Compress the tab and pull out, and we are free. Put this off to the side. Now that we're in here, we can remove the stereo. Go ahead and pull out, it looks like a bunch of 10 mils. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Perfect. After you pop out those 10 mils, take this, fold it forward, and again, we'll have another clip right here. Those will be the exact same. Just squeeze those 3 clips, pop them out, and then just slide out the antenna. As you can see, your old deck was much thicker, and this new one is very thin. So, see how there's 4 holes? We're only going to actually utilize 2 of those holes, which is fine. So what you're going to do is take out all these screws right here on that bracket, and we're lining this up so we know exactly where those 2 screws have to go. So those 2 screws in the front need to go to the 2 screws over here. And what that's going to do is support the deck. We are no longer going to utilize those rear ones. The other thing we have to do is add in our adapters. So I don't have the adapter part number. Oh, there it is. It's 1761 from Metra or whichever. So you can get it from Metra if you'd like. This is an Alpine deck. So since we're using Alpine and we want to bypass a couple things, we are going to be using this universal bypass trigger, so that way we can do settings on the fly and not have to worry about the parking brake being pulled or doing the sequence of parking brake, foot brake, which is what is required for Alpine decks. So now that we've gone ahead and gone over that, we've got this. Oh, and this right here. Sorry, those were for the adapters for the speakers I just put in. This right here, which again has the part number ripped off. There it is, 958202. This is going to add some side skirts when we're bolting it on till it fills up the whole old spot. Take a look at how much I trimmed off here. And that's what they come as. So I'm going to actually come over here, be very careful, and just trim the plastic right along here so that way it'll fit around this metal bezel piece. What I decided to do was cut off this bottom one. Why? Because it has this little dimple on here. You do that, you're going to file down that nub and make it so it's flat, so this sits flat on the radio. Just like that. Actually, maybe a little more. This is the final deck configuration. As you can see with this very thin deck, if you go to the stereo, see and note the position. If there's 2 higher holes and 2 lower holes, you just want to go to the lowest setting possible. It sits just like this, and then you have to file and cut down the plastic trim piece so it'll fit just like this. Now you can see that both of these line up. Looks good. Leave the screen protector on, obviously, until you're all done. But now that we have that, now we can start doing our wiring harness. So, deck is ready to go in. All right, let's show you how to run the amplifier wiring. Just go ahead, fingers down here, pop these up, just like that. Put the trim off to the side. Do the same right here. Just comes all the way back to here. Look at this, we got a nice trough for speaker wire. Keeps it all separated. Now that we know that we've got that separated, we've got the floor covers there. This will come up into here. Later on, when I'm running the other power wires and stuff, I will probably pop this forward as well. Let's see if I can just get it started here. There's probably some screws and stuff in there, but yeah, it's going to go up and in here and up and over there. So now that we've got that nice and loose, we can come over here. See if I can turn this light on in here. Oh, look at that. Come up right here. Actually, that didn't help at all, did it? Either way, you want to just peel this away. See how this pops that way? Perfect. Now, sometimes in the back there, we'll see if there is. Sometimes they have a clip. We'll see. Doesn't look like it. It should just fold forward. Oh, no, there is. Right here by the dead pedal. So we got to pull the dead pedal off. And then there's this little black piece right here. You unscrew it off. Almost there. Only takes a couple years. Geez, you'd think she was holding something structural, eh? Let's see something. There. Done. Okay, so now we have a spot to come down from the dash with our wiring and then follow this trough all the way to the back of the vehicle, which is back here to where we mount the amp. Do the same to the other side because you want to run your power if you can on the other side. Make sure you tape these together. I like to put them either in a vise or hold one set and then just basically put them all in my hand like this and tape them down. What you need to do is go ahead and tape together all your RCAs, and if you're running a 4-channel amp, make sure you run the wires to the rear. For me, I'm only running 2 of them because I'm actually adding 2 speakers because it's the FJ, so that way we can just wire 2 new wires right to the rear speakers because they'll be right beside the amp. And then this one is just going to be a remote wire / reverse camera wire. So that way I can grab power for the reverse cam. Anyways, so we're taking a look at this. I just wanted to show you this. The other thing I did is on each individual set, I know which one's which because I color coded them. So that way, when I solder onto the back of the deck and also plug these in, I know which ones are front, which ones are rear, and which one's sub. Pretty easy. I actually just pulled this up right here. See how I could see light down there from putting a light there? All I did is I fed a zap strap up, used it as a pull string, and pulled up all my wires. So you can even do it with the finger trick, which is try to touch your fingers together. They will always find each other. Kind of like a long lost love. Anyways, so just make sure that you do that. As you can see, it's down there. Next thing you can do is see where you want to zap strap it. Just at the bottom and in here, I pop this cover off, pretty easy, just pull it. And then from here, just start finding a wire cluster or whatever you want to do, and just strap this up here so it's nice and secure. And then we're just going to start strapping all the way down here. So under here, you just run it. You have to pull this plastic back and tuck all your wiring in behind the plastic. Make sure it doesn't get caught under the blade of this plastic. So fold it up and tuck it all in, because this is where the plastic trim will fit into. Don't try to run it in here. It doesn't work. Trust me. So just leave this wiring space completely open. Keep it behind these pointers here, and then you can stick your trim back in and it'll still fit really snug. There she is on the back of the seat. I made sure I had enough room. Just is going to close, keeps the wires nice and close to the bottom so they're not going to get unplugged and you can't see them. And what's going to happen is we've got our 2 front wires here and our remote wire I ran. Now, cool thing, also running a backup camera. I just tucked it in along here, and then after that, flex to this and span the backup camera parts up and around here. So now I've got access to the grommet right here. And the other good news is right beside that grommet, which is right here, is your reverse light. So we'll be able to grab our reverse light trigger from right there as well. So now that we know we've got the reverse light trigger, we've got our backup camera right here, our amplifier's there. I'm gonna put these wires off to the side because the next thing to do is focus on running power from the front engine bay to here, which of course we're gonna run down the opposite side of the vehicle. Just like you did the other side, go ahead, pop off all the trim all the way back here, then come over here. You can sink this out. See how these squeeze? And then go like that. You just have to squeeze both sides of the glove box. And there's also a little actuator right here. Pop it off the side. She'll stay on the glove box lid. And then all you have to do is literally squeeze and squeeze, and this will come up and out. Once the glove box is out of its way, can you see this? Probably not. Right there, if I can get it to focus in the background. You'll see my red wire back there in one sec. There, see that black grommet right in the back? We're gonna poke a hole through there. It's gonna go right behind our battery. So you can poke a hole through there with a flat blade screwdriver or whatever you'd like. And after you poke a hole through there, we're gonna feed through a zap strap. And again, I'm gonna zoom this back out. It goes right into that corner there, which you see best right there in my shot. So use that to navigate your hands, and just be careful because there is a module and stuff in there, and it's pretty sharp. It's got sharp metal on it, so it'll cut your knuckles up if you're not careful. Let's teach you a trick. First, when you get your zap strap through, so you've got that strap through, do a layer of tape on it first. Don't break the tape, but just leave it there. Next, take your 4 gauge, take it and cut it on an angle. Then tape it to the zap strap, and then after we finish taping this, we're going to cover it in hand soap, or if you want to, you could use any sort of lubricant and it will slide through that grommet much easier. Just make sure your taping's done first, because you are never going to get the tape to stick after. Ain't that right, bud? Once you do that and you get the soap all in, oh, that. Like I said, the key is the soap. Now that we got lots of wire in here, we won't even need that much. It's going to be over here. We're going to mount our fuse somewhere up here. Another trick for you, so that way we don't have to shove your 0 gauge or your 4 gauge under the carpet. like we did with our other side. Another way you can do this is with these posts. Take some side cutters and cut off those plastic posts, which you'll see on yours. It'll still clip because it locks into here, not onto the posts. Those are just for a bit more structure. So if I were you, especially for running this gauge, cut, and then do that with the back one, and you can run that in that trough, no problem. So we've got our wire coming down. We're gonna, of course, zap strap and tape that up. Comes down through the trough, just weave it in that plastic. So it comes through here and you can actually slide it right next to this vehicle one. Ignore this. This is for an inverter I have. Don't think I'm running a ground with it because I'm not. So the next thing that we are doing is right here, I did what I did on the other side. I popped the carpet up and then I slid it underneath, comes out there. I'll continue weaving it back under the carpet, popping it up over there, and then bringing it up to our amp. And then we just have to find a ground. Next thing to do, take out that 10 mil and take out that 10 mil. We're gonna remove that piece of plastic. When we bring the power wire up, what I'm gonna actually end up doing is notching that plastic a little bit. Trust me, I know it sucks to notch on your nice plastic, but at the same time, if you bring the power wire up through there, what will end up happening is over time, that could be chafing it and then go right through your power wire, which would suck. It's better just to take the time and file or cut a small little notch in it so that way your power and your ground can come up through there. Once you pop that out, see, you can totally pop everything out through here, which is perfect. And then we'll just notch that area. So first we're gonna wire amp, and then in the very end, we'll notch a lip off of that plastic piece that goes here, and it's good to be a lot better. The other cool thing is, see this? How it's holding the seats? This is structural. So now we can drill into here, or at least put some self-tapper screws, and we can put our ground off of here. So we found a good grounding area as well. Pull this back, use this, and clean off a paint patch. This is so we're gonna ground. Now keep in mind we're above the gas tank, so I wouldn't use screws that are too long. Again, these are never gonna reach the gas tank once you add the piece there. So I would keep them less than an inch if you can. And that way it goes right into the support bar right here, which is a grounding area. As you can see, that's why they welded on here, and you have these seat bolts that go into here, because right here is a big long piece of frame. So it should cause a really nice ground. You can get these crimping tools pretty cheap off of Amazon. I think I got it for like 40 bucks. Can't even remember. Anyways, they allow you to crimp these ends pretty darn good. I like to crimp one on one angle, one on another, and they don't look the prettiest until you slide the cover on, but man, they never come out. You can call me crazy if you want. I always do the 3. One here, one there, and one there. If you have a Toyota pin, or whatever you want to do, paint protector, anything, spray paint this, get something on here, you don't want it to rust. Next thing we're going to do is start wiring up the amp. So first thing's pretty easy. Put our ground in. After that, we'll put our power in, our remote wire, and then we'll start hooking up the speakers and subwoofer. All right, so the other thing we're going to be doing for this FJ is we're going to be adding some rear speakers. So if you bring about a 5-inch template, you can actually hold it right here. Look at that, it fits perfect in here. And by the way, these are where the grill would sit. So we know that the grill will fit on in that area. Next thing I'm going to tell you to do, if you're going to add rear speakers back here, pull the seal, grab this, and careful, there. You're going to look in there, and again, I can't really show you because I don't have my flashlight in my hands, but look in there and just make sure there's no wiring in your way before you do this. What you're going to require is a 5-inch hole saw and some 5-inch speakers. Start your hole saw very, very gently, and then as you go through, it'll drill, then it'll catch, it'll cut the hole out, and then after that, you'll have the perfect spot. Take a look at that. See? Big open spot, lots of room for any size magnet. And then same with right here, big open spot. Take the piece of plastic, flex it, take your hand, feed it through the hole like that. So for running this over, simple as popping the floor up again, just from grabbing right here, pop it up, tuck it up and around, keep it separate from the power wire. If I were you, run the power wire right here along the center and run your speaker wire up and along the top, or vice versa. Run the speaker wire across the floor on the inside. By the way, don't be confused by me having it above the carpet because I'm running it underneath. I decided to solder mine. You can also buy the big blade and mini blade and use those. I just hate how often they fail and then it slips off and then you have to pull the speaker out and put it back on. So if I were you, slide it through the opening in the little blade and then go ahead and solder on. Take a look at that. So these are the JLC2s. I think they look really, really good. I mean, if you're only going to be using deck power, use the C1s, but if you're going to amp them, use the C2s. They look nice and clean. Just use a set of coaxials. I wouldn't add a tweeter up here. I mean, if you really wanted to, there might be an airbag or something up here. I wouldn't bother up here. Just do a coaxial right here. It'll be perfect. Add a little bit more sound just behind your head. Let's go over what we're doing here. Power, ground. Again, no exposed copper. Everything is slid in and tied in. This was meant to be 2 amps, but we're doing 1 now, which is perfect. So I just spliced them both in to the remote wire turn on, which this goes back to your deck. We ran this with the RCAs, which goes to your remote wire, which is that blue-white wire. Then we have our RCAs, which we color coordinated so we know which one is which, so we know where to plug it in on the deck. And don't get confused by this where it says channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, channel 4, sub. So how you know is it'll actually tell you here which is left and right, and it'll say here. So 1, 2 is your front speakers, so front left, front right. And then from there we've got our rear left, rear right, and then our subwoofer, which if you're just using one subwoofer, what you will do is you can just branch it across if you really want to. You could even run 2 lines. If you're running 2 subs, you could just run 2 lines to each. Or if you're going to wire it down to 2 ohms, we'll say, you could also just wire the subs together and then wire and branch it to the farthest out. So negative here, positive here. Leave the center 2 alone. If you're wondering about how much lead, I like to leave my leads longer and then just try yours out. It all depends on the amp, but see where by the time I cram that in there where it's sitting, that's how I know that I've got a good one, because the wire is going to sink all the way in there and it's going to get tied in pretty much center of the lead. So and then what you do, of course, at the very end, do a pull check. See how I'm pulling on them? They're not going anywhere. Always do a pull check. Do that especially on your power and your ground. The remote turn on. You just leave it on remote so that way it knows when to turn on. And then you can also do signal sensing, which this is only for if you're going to be using the high level inputs of the amplifier, which this would be flicked over. You wouldn't have run RCAs. You would have had a high level which you would have plugged in and ran high level ins to get this to run. Again, that's a whole nother setup, and I would suggest that you take a look at that if you're doing high level ins. Since we are replacing the deck on here because it's a really basic deck that's in here, we have gone ahead and, like I said, set it to remote so it's all the way over, low, and 6 channel in. That's just for this amplifier. We will set the gains and the frequencies afterwards. What we want to do for right now is just get that set, and then once we get the actual deck in and started up, then we can set these on the fly. This one right here is our front right, front left is the white one. And then we ran those rear speakers to the back. And then, of course, if you're for some reason running them off the deck power rather than your amplifier, then what you would do is you would hook them up to the purples and the greens up here, which I didn't even plug that connector in because we're not using it. Then we have black, which is ground, red, which is switched accessory power. That tells the deck to turn on. And then the yellow is the constant, so it holds its memory and settings. And then the yellow is, that was the yellow. The blue solid is your power antenna. The blue white is your amp turn on wire. So that's why we have that going to our amp. And then we already showed you how to wire the AX trigger there. And then for this one, the orange white is the reverse wire. Since we're doing a reverse camera, and this specific camera, what's cool is it just needs you to hook up to the reverse wire here because we grab power off of the reverse light in the rear. So as you can see here, all we've done is attached it. It goes to the orange white. In most other decks, This one would be purple, by the way. The reverse wire is usually purple or purple white. Okay, let's go ahead now, and as you can see, we have our amps all plugged in. Pretty easy. Follow your RCA colors so that way they match up. Other than that, let's see. Oh yeah, I've already run our USB. We've ran our Bluetooth. Yeah, that goes over the backup camera and everything. I'm gonna just clean this up a little bit. I like to bundle up nice and clean. Then I'll tuck it in back here, since we know this doesn't eat a whole lot of space with the climate controls. And then we can plug our deck in and put the screws back in. Take a look at that. Admire it for a sec. Don't worry about this. This has just got the screen protector on it. That's why you always leave the screen protector on until after it's installed. All right, we have our 3 plugs sticking out. We have nothing being pinched. Everything is nice and loose in there. And from there, we're gonna plug this in and slip the piece back on. Screw back in here, the screw back in here. Go ahead, grab your side piece. Goes right there. Just like that. Just like that. Put the 2 screws back in the bottom. Pretty easy to put your glove box back in. Just make sure you have those little hooks. They hook into here and hook into there. So put it on, then fold these side pieces in. Just like how you got it out, you have to flex it in to get it around the plastic. After you do that, the shock, little shock right here, you can clip it back onto the body. Note that it goes into the bottom hole, not the top hole on that shock. There are 2 holes. Make sure you put it in the bottom hole. As you can see, cut it, stripped right in here. You back the screw off, slide the silver in, make sure you want it to cap out, but you don't want any copper hanging out the back end. Then you tie the screw in. If you buy certain fuse holders, they will have a 8 gauge insert. Make sure you slide that out if your wire is not fitting. Don't cut the wire down to fit it. Actually slide that insert out. And then as you can see, this is going to seal. All I've done is I've put our fuse on there. We put a 150 amp fuse in here because that's what our wire is rated for. Now that we have that, what we're going to go ahead and do is see how long of a pigtail we need, and then I'm going to just zap strap that fuse holder probably right around over here. Just don't do it too close to here, because as you can see that how this ground wire here has an indent, that's because of this shock absorber. If you put it up and along through here or something, make sure you dodge the shock absorber right here. Small little run from here to here. I just zap strapped it on this post. And then from there, this one just goes back and into the vehicle. You always want to try and keep this as short as possible, because this is the part that if it gets pinched or shorts out and it doesn't have a fuse on it, it's really bad for the battery. Cut out the corner of that panel with an oscillating tool or with a jigsaw, whatever you want to do. And I also cut out the bottom there so our ground wire and all the wires have no chance of being pinched in that area when this seals down. So it's going to sit somewhat like this. Flip the seat up and that's how she's gonna look. That's not bad at all. I like it. Keeps it nice and clean. And again, minimal wire being seen and less to get snagged. This is our sub wire. All we're gonna have to do is cut that to length. And I don't think we're gonna mount it in this case. What's gonna end up happening is we're actually gonna be creating a strapping system, because the thing is we want this to be able to be removable just in case he still needs his trunk. So just so you know, if you do this, just a warning for those who might question it, if it isn't actually bolted down, your insurance company might not cover it if it gets stolen. But at the same time, it really takes away the usability of the trunk if you don't make it removable. So do this, do that at your own risk. All right, we're wiring the sub up, the last little piece to the audio project. To do that, if you just have a plain old 1 sub, you're fine. If it's a dual voice coil, you would have already known what to do when you wired the sub into the box. Let's teach you about the box end of things though. So, if you have 2 subs like so, and you have a 4 ohm and a 4 ohm sub like we have here, we want to actually wire it down to 2 ohms. So you want to wire it in parallel. So red, and then you'd wire another wire from red over to red on this side, then black to black, and then black from here onto the negative of the amp. Quite simple. If you want to do series, let's say you wired this is 2 ohm and this is 2 ohm, and your amp is rated for only 4 ohms. Very rare, but we'll just say it anyway. You would go from red to black, and then you do black to red, and then you would do the red, black, right to your amplifier. And that would then add it up from 2 and 2 to 4 impedance. All right. You can learn more about this from the different car audio wiring websites and stuff. I'm just giving you a very brief tutorial for those of you that are dealing with a dual sub situation. I'm not even gonna bother going into 3 and 4s. For your amp, what I would suggest you do is start at what's known as RMS of the amp. Again, we're not going to be blaring our speakers during the beginning stages because we're going to have to check for clipping. Really cool thing, this has a clipping light. If you trust that clipping light, what you'll have to do is turn down your gains as you notice this light start flashing because the speaker is clipping, because not all speakers are created equally. It's very important to note. I also like to do all my HPF and my LPFs at the amp. So I have this at 80, 80, and 100 because I want my sub to turn in at 100 and I want my speakers to cut off at 80. That way there's a little bit of overlap. That's my favorite, so if you want to, just make sure you set them. Make sure that on here, if yours is stereo and mono, it's over on stereo, so that way it knows that it's speakers. So stereo, stereo, and then the sub is mono, which it doesn't even give you a chance on this one. And we already went over this portion. So now that we've set our basics, let's go ahead, turn on the vehicle, and do some deck setup, so that way we can start listening to some music and seeing how it's going. We'll wait for our deck. This one is an Alpine. Again, I'm leaving this on until absolutely everything's done, and then I'll peel off the screen protector. English. Ooh, I already heard that, so I can tell that our speakers are working. Ooh, thank gosh that didn't go on to anything. What I think I'm going to do is I have my USB stick in my Jeep. I'll bring that over and we can put some music on because I have some music that isn't copyright. But first, before we do that, let's go ahead and turn down the volume or mute it. Let's do some settings first. So, system. We'll see what we can adjust. We'll adjust the clock afterwards. I believe it's that time right there still, so we could just say it's 5:49, 50 p.m. Perfect. Dimmer, you can set your dimness. We have it on auto right now. You can change your illumination, whatever you want to do. I'm going to leave it the way it is. Camera I'll set up afterwards. I'm not doing that. Bluetooth is for if you're going to set up your phone. Pretty easy. Go ahead, click search, find your phone. I'm not going to do that right now. If you hit search and it doesn't find your phone, open up your phone, hit Bluetooth, and look for the Alpine deck or whatever deck you're connecting to it. Sound. We want to make sure this is all good. Sub on. Phase 0. You can add bass. What I suggest you do is leave this zeroed, but if you want to, you can increase the bass to all. Some people, what they'll do, they'll go to plus 15. They'll set their bass there, and what they'll do after that is they'll dial it back to nothing and then add how much they want. So that way when they're really cruising, they just want to be booming, they can put it to plus 15, and then when they want to just be cruising and not have any bass, they can drop it down to 0 or go to some happy medium. Advanced. Subwoofer, all this. Oh yeah, we got parametric equalizer. You can go through here and set the different ranges that you want to. I'm going to be doing this as flat because that's what I really like to do, is listen to the speakers as they're meant to from the factory. This is for if you want to make some little tweaks because it's just, maybe it's a little bit too pitchy in certain areas, and you can go ahead and do that. Again, crossovers, you can see it's at 80. I'm going to actually set this at 200, so that way it sets 200 hertz right to the rear, and then that way it does all the adjustments. And again, that says front HPF. What we would do is make sure that you go to all the different ones. Let's see, front HPF. Oh, this is decibels. We don't want to slope on it. It's just taking a look. Channel. There, rear. We want to once again go to 200. And then subwoofer, go ahead and, well, not decibels. Go ahead and set that one to 200. And again, just leave it like that. If you don't want to do that, set it on the amp that to do full range, and then do all your adjustments in here rather than through the amp if you want. I like to do it through the amp because it's more accurate. Anyways, now that we've gone ahead and done that, back out of there. Give me a second, let me get some music, and let's test our system. So, another little trick for you. Pop this by putting a flat blade in here, a flat blade in here, popped it out, took out the old aux port, and hit this with a rasp, and kind of dremeled it out. Doesn't look the best, but I'll clean it up a tiny bit, then slide, and then I drilled 2 holes in here, because what I'm going to do is bring the zap strap through here, zip tie the cord right here, and have my USB sitting right there. So it's kind of nice and flush right in the same hole where it was. Look at that. So there's your deck. And like I said, she's in there. If you wanted to, you could even use some black filler in here, whether you use black silicone, whatever you want, and just seal it in here. Do whatever you want. But like I said, I kind of like that. First piece to stick back in is just this one. Get this lined up first. That'll line up into place. And then you just sink that back in. Next, bring this in right here. Sink that in and squish this down. All right, guys, let's give this volume a check. Well, there we go. That's a start to it. Again, watching for that clipping lighting and being extremely careful. I know it's kind of Christmassy, but again, also, make sure you start the vehicle in the final test. Well, tune it to your liking. Listen for any distortion. I like to put my deck at about 3/4 volume because that's about the maximum you're going to want to be putting your deck at. If you start smelling your subs get warm, what I highly suggest you do is you turn it down for a bit and let them break in. Again, I went a little louder there just because I want to see what our subs are doing right now. But again, I would never do that continuously right now because of the fact that you need to let those things break in. Give them at least, 10, 20 hours driving. That way, before you turn it up, those cones have worked in, everything's doing what it should. But also, if you're not happy with that sub at below where you're wanting right now, maybe consider upgrading them. But so far, that was sounding pretty darn good for myself. But again, this just depends on where you're aiming for. So anyways, that is the audio portion. Now I'm going to run the backup camera. This is a little crux camera that we're using, the CUB-01. And check this out. So what we did is I took the hole saw that comes with it, drilled a little hole just off center because there's a metal bumper down here, but right here is foam. So what I did is I drilled through the foam right here, went right through, and after I got through here, just put this big flat blade in here, cleared it out. Now I can pass my wire through. If it doesn't feel like it's gonna fit, I'll tape it onto here, slide the camera wire through, and it'll just press into here. The only thing we gotta make sure we do is line it up. If you decide to install the same camera, make sure you leave it out this far, so that way once we plug it in, we can make sure it's the right side up, and then we'll sink it in. Until we do that, just leave it partially in there, and then I'll show you under the vehicle where we're gonna run the wire up to. Right there, right where we ran our wire earlier, take a little small flat blade, pop it through the grommet, move it around, and pop your wire up and into here from under the vehicle. You can even leave that screwdriver in there so you know where it is, and you could tape it to it, do whatever you'd like. There's the foam we came through, come up over here, and then if I move this light over a little bit, there is our rubber grommet. So I seen the screwdriver here, and all I did is I chased the screwdriver tip with the tip of the camera up into the cab, and yeah, look at that. Now if you want to, one thing I'll recommend that you do is you do some wire loom on here, and then you can keep that nice and protected. Right here, little flat blade, stick it in here, pops out, and not the gray connector, but the one above it, the black one right here that has the black, white, and the red, yellow is the connector that you want. Go ahead, solder the positive wire onto red, yellow, and the negative wire onto white, black. So if you look up there, you're gonna see my hand come on the camera, and I can see which way it needs to rotate. So I can do this, and just make sure we slip it out and put it in the right way. All right, door is up. Should be something like this, and you can just bring your hand down and make sure you're orientated at a very flat way. So if you have a door, like I have a garage door behind me, just align it with the hinges. Check this out. You hit this, put her into reverse, up she pops. We're good. Well, that's the end of this video. Thanks again for watching, and I hope this helped you set up your audio system. Run a backup camera if you're doing that, and of course, swap out your door speakers, run all new wiring down to the amplifier, and get this thing the boost that it desperately needed back in 2007. Anyways, thanks again for watching. Press like if it helped you out, and subscribe for more.